my staff person is going to. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Hornberger, and this is a meeting of the Cecil delegation. This meeting is being recorded, so just keep that in mind. And we sent out an agenda yesterday, and we'll go ahead and get started on the items. Let's see here. So if you have the agenda in front of you, we have 3 local bills that we're going to talk about. And I appreciate everybody being here on time and ready to go so early on a Friday. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started to the agenda, just since we're live streamed, can you just explain to everybody who the Cecil delegation is, who the membership is?
Sure.
So it sounded like some confusion in a bill hearing the other day, so I'd like you to explain that.
Yeah, so the Cecil delegation, for full disclosure, is because Cecil County is a charter county. We have the option of meeting as a House delegation or a Senate delegation. However, we have chosen in the past to meet as a joint delegation, which includes both the House and Senate members. And representing District 35B is myself. Representing District 35A is Delegate Riley and Delegate Griffith, which covers both Hartford and Cecil. And then the senator for District 35 is Senator Gallion. For the south part of the county, we have District 36. It's a 3-member district, and it consists of Delegate Ernst, Delegates Jacobs, and Delegates Grist, with the senator being Senator Hershey, who will hopefully be joining us here shortly, but is represented by his illustrious staff person, Erica Howard. Thank you for being here, Erica. Okay. So the first bill on the list that we have for consideration is SB 396, cross file HB 1229. And this bill deals with the makeup of the Upper Shore Regional Council. We sent out a link to the text of the bill. This bill was requested by the Cecil County Council and Cecil County Executive. And basically what it does, a short description of the bill, is that it updates the membership and appointment of membership to the Upper Shore Regional Council. The language that was in the charter for that, which is a state entity, the Upper Shore Regional Council is a state agency, state entity, was that it was 3 commissioners. We do have legal opinions that, deal with wherever the term commissioner reference is made in language that, it defers to the county executive model. However, both the council and the executive wanted to clarify that and update this language. So this would actually change it to a similar posture as other charter counties that are in Upper Shore Regional Council or other subsequent regional councils in the other parts of the state, whereas it would have the county executive and then 2 members of the council. So with that being said, is there any questions about what the bill does or concerns? Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number B, HB 835. This is a golf cart bill for the town of Charlestown. Exciting legislation. And the members that have been here for a number of years will all remember that this was requested in the past. We did have some meetings with the town of Charlestown. If you remember, there was concerns that in previous years there was a subcommittee chair that really wasn't big on golf cart legislation, and that there may be some hurdles there. We also asked if they could move their language that they were requesting closer to other jurisdictions that had already successfully passed golf cart legislation. And after a few years of sort of handing this back and forth, we do have a bill that I believe is in a much better posture. And then we have also some changes on the consistency of the committee that hears golf cart legislation. And the town has agreed to basically mirror the language that was passed in Delegate Mounts, now Senator Mounts' bill, in previous years to help ensure that it gets passed. This bill is supported by the town council. We do have a vote on it, and it's also supported by the county government. We have a letter of support from them as well. So are there any questions on the golf cart legislation or concerns? Delegate Jacobs.
Thank, I'm like, yeah, okay. Thank you, Kevin. So this legislation, do any of these roads cross a state highway, state road in any part of the route that they're proposing?
There is a state highway that basically bisects the town of Charlestown, and my understanding is that they would be able to cross over intersecting streets.
They hope so. That's going to have to be an exception because the law doesn't permit it. When the first golf cart bill, which was Chrisfield, was passed, we did finally, after 3 or 4 years of hearing that bill, finally grant an exception to cross the state highway, but they haven't done that in any other town other than Chrisfield. So I can tell you that's going to be a push right there.
Yeah, that's a good catch. We did mirror the final language of the bill that passed. So I'm gonna have to go back and verify that language is not there.
Just make sure before the hearing that you got that problem resolved, because that's a killer, I can tell you.
Okay. Yeah, and again, this has had some controversy in the past, but we've asked them, and the town is obliged to put it in the posture of the bills that have already passed. So
I personally have no problem with golf carts, but
sure.
my committee doesn't see the same scenario.
Yeah, and one of the things that we brought up too, however they wanted to continue to move forward, is that we do have a low speed tag that is available through the MVA.
That's what I recommend to most towns that want to do this, because by the time you modify that golf cart to the standards in the bill, the money difference is not a whole lot. Whereas you have, a legal low speed vehicle tag.
Correct.
On the other one, it's a little more expensive for the vehicle initially, and you just don't have all that those other issues to worry about. So that's what I always recommend. If they would go that route, then you don't have to worry about the state highway crossings and things of that nature.
Yeah, and we have brought that up with the town. Sometimes they have constituents that are very passionate about this, and one of the concerns that was brought up by the constituents is that the low speed vehicle tag requires a title in order to receive that tag and be recognized by the MVA, and that a number of their constituents had golf carts that were not titled with the state of Maryland. So these are absolute concerns, and they are going to have, they promised me that they're going to have someone that's willing to come down and testify on the bill. As we know, it'll be the committee's bill, and they'll make a determination and ask the right questions. But this has been a multi-year effort, and want to make sure that we're honoring their request.
The Norm Conway, who was the appropriations chair, put that bill in at least a couple times. Mm-hmm. And Senator Mathias one time for Chrisfield, and neither one, they couldn't get it through.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
It took Delegate Otto to get it through.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But it's a tough sell. I'm not kidding. It's really, I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, the committee just don't like it.
Yeah, and the town of Charlestown is sort of on a peninsula. It is not a town that a tremendous amount of traffic has to drive through to get to another spot. And this is what they put together, and we're going to give it a whirl. Delia Riley, I noticed that you had your hand up.
Actually, Delegate Jacobs kind of covered it.
Okay,
Thanks.
Great. Okay, Delegate Ernst.
Yeah, I assume your intent, Mr. Chair, is to make these delegation bills. Is that right?
Yes, that's accurate. Yep.
Okay. Do you want to maybe vote on them while we go through them instead of having to go back to rediscuss them if we want to discuss them any further?
We can vote on them if you'd like. But want to take any questions? and concerns. Additionally, yeah, sure. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second,
Okay.
Okay,
Make
all
this a
those,
delegation bill.
so all those in favor of making HB 835 a delegation bill, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We can jump back up to on the first bill that we heard. I think you're pointing that out, Delegate Aaron's. For both SB 396 and HB 1229. Do I have a motion on those bills?
I'll make a motion to
I'll second
support
it.
it as delegation bill.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay, great. All right, the third bill we have here is that was at the request of Senator Gallion, is SB 517, and then has a cross file HB 1140, and is titled the Porta Deposit State Historical Park, included areas. For this bill, we included a link to the bill as well as the testimony that was heard on Wednesday. Excuse me. Last week, this bill was entered by Senator Gallion, and as I put there in the email, the hearing was on Wednesday, and Senator Gallion had requested that we add this to the list for delegation bill. However, at this time, I do have some concerns dealing with this bill, and I'm going to ask that Senator Gallion recuse himself from any debate or presentation on this bill at this time.
I'm going to deny that request, and you were incorrect. It was a Cecil Senator's bill, both Senator Hershey and I, and of course he's not on here yet. But being one of the two Cecil senators and a member of this delegation, I'm not going to recuse myself on it. And also, the House bill has 5 of 6 members signed on onto the cross file. So with that theory, you'd have to have them recuse themselves too. So no, I'm not recusing myself.
So the rationale for the recusal on the Senate bill is that Senator Gallion had shared with me that there's a potential conflict of interest, and I'm asking that you seek either a recusal or an exclusion from the vote, and also sponsorship of the bill based on that potential conflict.
What's the conflict?
You had disclosed with me, and I don't want to go into the details here about a relationship with a board member. And
You have a board member on there that's your cousin, so let's quit playing games with this. Let's deal with this. There's two amendments.
Fully,
There's 2 amendments by DNR. I would like to put those amendments forward and move that we accept
Senator
delegation
Gallion,
bill with the 2 amendments from DNR.
Delegate Moonberg, how about we take a vote on whether or not he should be recused?
No, so let me put a finer point on this.
Go ahead.
As the delegation chair, and this is a delegation meeting, members
We
are
can have a meeting now then if we're going to start recusing each other. This is ridiculous.
members are welcome to put in bills. However, we are now at a point where the senator is asking myself, as well as the members of the delegation, to put this in as a delegation bill. What I am asking is that Senator Gallion disclose the potential conflict of interest and then seek guidance from the ethics on how best to move forward. I've put this bill on the agenda in good faith, and we have plenty of time to sort this out. And I'm also am willing to commit on this meeting that we will have a subsequent meeting once we have clear guidance on the best way to move forward as early as next week. That's a question.
You know what? I have my hand up if that's okay. I get it. I also understand the senator's point. I don't think it's going to change the outcome of this bill. I mean,
I don't either.
And do we have to ask you to recuse yourself too because you have a cousin? And if we do, then maybe we should consider your request to recuse the senator. We should consider the request to recuse you, and then take a vote on whether we want to make this a delegation.
When I said cousin, I meant on the BDC board, not on the advisory.
I'm sorry.
So So what I would answer to that is I do not have a bill in front of this body. The senator does. So there is no reason for me to recuse myself from anything because I am here representing the delegation.
I
Well,
think that-
then
I
we
don't
have a
want
delegate-
anyone. I still have the floor.
Delegate Riley has the bill, the cross file. So
Yeah, and it's
is
exact.
that bill
and
all
it's
right
an
to talk
exact-
about?
It's an exact copy of your bill.
Yeah, but it's a House bill that she's a sponsor of. So
It's
you
an
gonna make her
exact,
recuse
it's an
herself?
exact
too?
copy of your bill that you are asking me as the delegation chair to put my name on and the name of this delegation. So,
Okay, my hand's up. Somebody.
okay, Delegate Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So anyway, so apparently I don't know what the recusal is with the good senator. And I am aware of where they're coming from when they talk about, the recusal of Delegate Hornberg, because I know your cousin. So both of those folks that we're talking about, both of those members are on the BDC, correct? We're both conflicts, both on that particular board?
I don't have a bill in front of this organization.
Ultimately,
I'll
you
make that
do.
very
This
clear.
was this advisory group that generated this particular bill that we have before us was your bill.
I do not have a bill.
And you were
I-
on the advisory committee.
I have state law that has been passed, but I don't have a bill in front of the House delegation that,
Yeah, but you want
Requesting.
input. So your recusal is exactly the same as I believe what you're saying with Senator Gallion, because both of those members are on the same board that you're speaking of. So you will be voting on this piece of legislation with that same dynamics. So you would have to recuse yourself as well, because it's the same board. So
I don't have-
I
I
think
don't
you
have a
need to
conflict.
think before you ask Senator Gallion to recuse himself, because it would be the exact same as you having to recuse yourself.
I don't have a
Because
conflict.
you have a
of
vote.
interest
No,
with
but
this
you have
bill.
a vote on this particular legislation. That's when you recuse yourself, is when you have to vote. Not that you're a sponsor of a bill, it's when you vote. So I'm just asking you to reconsider that ask, because it would also, I believe, include you as well. So therefore, you would not have a vote on this bill, or the House bill, or the Senate bill.
So let me put a finer point on this. I've spoken to the ethics department about what I believe and was disclosed to me by Senator Gallion that there may be a conflict of interest. He is the sponsor of the bill. He has asked this organization, the Cecil County delegation, to move his bill from a posture of an individual bill to a delegation bill. And I am asking Senator Gallion to seek guidance on whether or not that is permissible. And then based on that guidance, we can vote this bill up or down. I do not have a bill in front of the Cecil County delegation,
And
and I am acting as
can we
the
have a
chair.
clarification?
Mhm.
One clarification, please. Where was the request that I had to make this a delegation bill? From my memory, the only thing I requested at least 2 or 3 times was to have a delegation meeting
Mhm.
to go over. When
You
did I
dropped-
make a formal request to make this a delegation bill?
You dropped the bill, you presented the bill, and you requested via email on 3 separate occasions to have this made a delegation bill and it be included on this agenda.
No, I
And
asked
I've
to have a
honored your request.
delegation meeting so we could work this stuff out ahead of time, which you refused to do until after you saw the bills were dropped. You didn't like the bill, and that's why we're having the delegation meeting. Also, what is the status on electing our chair annually? I don't believe we've ever voted on a chair of this delegation, and I think maybe it's time to consider that too.
I'm certainly open to that. Delegate Riley.
Okay, so back to it. So both of you, I think what you're stating now is kind of ludicrous, because both of you also were on and appointed to the advisory committee. There were no issues until all of a sudden there was an objection to what the good senator came up with as a bill to try to work this through to continue this process of the park.
I don't have a
And
bill in
now
front
all of a
this
sudden you
group.
disagree, and now you want him recused, which I think you're in the same category, and you were both on the advisory committee. So again, I do not agree with recusing Senator Gallion. And I do have to say his he already has the 2 senators from Cecil County sponsoring his bill. So he doesn't really need to make this a delegation. On the House side, that would be a possibility. But his requests on both occasions were basically to meet so that we could work this bill out with our differences. So,
And I've obliged that request. I've put it on the agenda. We're
Thank you.
discussing the bill now. And I'm telling you, as well as the other members of the delegation, that I don't feel comfortable at this point in time moving forward with this as a delegation bill. You, as members of the delegation and members of the General Assembly, can put in any bill that you like, co-sponsor it, get it across the aisle. But right now, you are asking me to put in a bill with my name on it when I believe that there is a potential conflict of interest and that conflict should be disclosed. Senator Hershey.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Again, I would just say, as a member of the Joint Ethics Committee, generally these types of issues that involve legislators having to recuse themselves is directly related to, does that individual or their immediate family stand to gain financially on a piece of legislation? Would this legislation affect that person specifically? And if that's not the case, which it does not seem to be, I would not call a cousin, and I'm sure the Ethics Committee does not call a cousin the immediate family, I don't see that is a need to recuse himself. And certainly, as Teresa said, the recusal would only come at the point of a vote for the piece of legislation. Secondly, I don't know that, at least from the Senate side, that this needs to be a delegation bill. I mean, Jason and I have both signed on to the bill as Cecil County senators. That does not require the approval of the delegation.
That's correct.
Or anybody else. So I think as far as our bill is concerned, we put it in under Cecil County senators. That's fine. The bill that is presented in the House, the way I understand it, is all under individual delegates.
Correct.
Everybody sign it. So it's not being asked to be a delegation bill. And certainly each of those delegates could sign off on their approval of this legislation without having to go to the delegation.
That is all correct. So at this time, I'm continued to be open to debate. I'm just asking that the senator get some guidance on this and that we can resolve this matter. I'm willing to commit to another meeting to discuss this as soon as the senator has that in hand. And I'm also not preventing or stopping or slowing down anyone from weighing in on an individual bill, submitting a bill, testifying on behalf of a bill, or submitting, supporting documentation or bringing advocates to champion their bill. Delegate Grice is up next.
So why, are you preventing us from having a discussion now? Because I'm still really unclear as to what the purpose of this bill truly is. And I think it comes down to this report that, at least in my first reading of this thing, this is the report that you or your office or someone had altered the official DNR report, I believe. Is that correct, Senator Gallion?
So
I did not alter a report.
No, not you. I'm talking about a report that seemed like it was Delegate Hornberger had altered. And
yes, the one Delegate Hornberger emailed, I think, on 2 separate occasions to the, maybe just once to the delegation. And
So
also had it printed out also a really nice hard copy printed, a couple of those too that were delivered to a couple offices. So you have to ask him about his report. The report he sent in, if you print it out, didn't have his name on it anywhere, but he did send it through email.
And is this the reason why we're putting this bill in?
No,
what's the purpose of this?
Yeah, so if I could answer that question, the request that we received was to have this bill considered as a delegation bill. I
did not request that.
I'm not arguing the merits of the bill up or down. So the request was to make this a delegation bill in both the House and Senate. The Senate does have the ability on their own, without the input from the House, to submit a Cecil delegation bill because we are a charter county.
right, so to expedite this conversation, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Delegate Burr, Delegate Riley, would you prefer that your bill be a delegation bill, or do you prefer to keep it in your name as the primary sponsor? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Delegate Raleigh.
Sorry, thank you. At this point, it doesn't matter to me at all. And it is, the cross file to the Senate bill. And I do want to make a correction. This bill was not necessarily put in because of the reports.
Okay.
The bill was put in mainly because of the recommendations that was from the report from DNR,
Gotcha.
the official report. That report was sent to all the advisory committee members at the time. The only person that we received a response back, that is from the full committee, was from Delegate Hornberger. He was told by the secretary at the time that he could submit, it says, I recommend that you send your own communications to the Maryland General Assembly following the assurance of the DNR report.
Yep.
She also stated that she believes that the DNR report that they came up with was accurate. The information was obtained from the entire advisory board, that it was accurate, and that it was factual facts that they put in there, and everyone agreed except for Delegate Hornberger at the time. So Delegate Hornberger, basically, it appears, I don't know, he'll have to speak on his own, but when you get the report, it looks like he just took the draft of the DNR report and actually took a lot of what we say is factual information and put in just opposite. So they're completely opposite reports, and he put in his own view, which I guess is fine. I think what really bothered the delegation members at this time and the senators is that on that report, it was a little, I don't know if you want to call it, deception, deceiving, or whatever, because nowhere on his report, because she said, send your own report. Nowhere on the report does it say this is from Delegate Kevin Hornberger. The report says, report to the legislature of the Port Deposit State Park, 11/16/2022, prepared and approved by the advisory group and submitted on behalf of the Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources in compliance with requirements of SB 5, which was last year's bill, which was Delegate Hornberger's bill. This was the cross SB 541. So that's where I think most of the delegation members at this time was like, well, I don't know that was the right approach to do that. So that's why we felt that we should drop the bill and put in basically the recommendations of what we got out of the official report, because we just need more time. There's a lot of testing and so on that needs to happen on that property. We were not comfortable to automatically just, go ahead, transfer the land, put a playground on there, and then the kids are digging in the dirt and then all of a sudden die of cancer 2 years. So there's a lot of concerns, a lot of money. One of the commission's duties was to see if this was physically responsible to transfer the land. So back to the state so that they would, to fund this. It turns out in the report, it's a lot of money, millions. To get this fixed. And there's a lot of other obstacles. So we were just basically asking for some time originally. And then when we found out that the real difficult part, and with the MOU and the land and the dirt and everything, that we should exclude the Tome School portion.
So Delegate Hornberger, just a question for you. And I'd rather iron this out now if we can, just because I don't have to come back to this next week. We're going to get busy real fast. Do you have any other studies? Do you have any other science out there that would say that the official DNR report is not accurate? And when you tell me that you this was your response to them, I believe you.
Yes.
Now, is there? Do you have any evidence that's out there that proves that DNR is not correct in their report? Because there were a lot of changes to that report. Do you have anything that would substantiate?
Yeah. So
wrong.
two things here. Delegate Riley, thank you for that input. I would just ask that we don't impugn anyone's motives or use any words like deceptive or deceive or anything. We were asked for input from the secretary. No one else provided input. in terms of the report that was generated, I submitted a report to the secretary that I felt was accurate and based on the information provided to the group. And then I was instructed by the secretary to submit that to the General Assembly on my own accord. And I did so verbatim, the way that I had submitted to the secretary. No changes or edits. If someone feels that I was trying to deceive or misrepresent, that's not the case. And any time that I've communicated with the group, I've included both reports, as was directed by the secretary, who is no longer serving. So in terms of that, to answer your question, Delegate Grice, we have funding in the budget currently to do additional testing around the Tome School. That's included in the budget. And we have testing that was done prior to the advisory board getting together. However, that testing was not conclusive and was so sporadic that it was unable to definitively show whether there was contamination on the property or not. One of the things that there is a lot of consensus on, and Delegate Riley just alluded to it, is that there's a good chance that this needs more time to be bore out and determine what the best path forward is. Now, I don't want to get into debating, because the BDC has been around 20 years, and this project sat vacant for many years. Debating all the things, that was the work of the advisory group. And I think that if legislation were to be passed that changed the Great Outdoors Act that was passed last year, almost unanimously, with the exception of 1 or 2 votes, that we should use that DNR report, whether it's the DNRs, whether it's the edits that I suggested, in good faith. And if we can do that through budget language, which a suggestion was made to me yesterday, then maybe that's a route as well. But
Excuse
what
me,
I
real
want,
quick. Jason Galleon's not on the call right now.
Oh.
He's trying to connect. I apologize, but I think he probably should be hearing this. We
Yeah,
can-
he should, if we can wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Since he has the sponsor of the Senate bill.
Yep. So I am asking that the senator seek out guidance on what he had disclosed with me with the ethics group, and then I'm asking that we continue to debate what happens with the park, how the park moves forward with this body. But and to answer your question, Delegate Grice, I don't think that we can solve that today in another 5 or 10 minute meeting.
Well, I mean, it's going to take time, and I think that's the purpose of Senator Galleon's and Delegate Riley's legislation, to buy us some time so we can figure this out. I'm not
Yeah, I
willing. I don't. You know, I want more information. You know, and it's certainly if my name's going to be. I know I don't live in Cecil County, Delegate Hornberg. I know I don't do that, and I want to be able to trust, your guidance in Cecil County since you live there. But at the same time, whatever we do as a delegation, it does reflect on us individually as well. And I'm not going to put myself into a position, I don't know that anybody else will, where we're going to do anything that's harmful to Cecil County either, and I hope that everyone can at least agree with that.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is that we get guidance on the ethics thing. I'll continue to meet with individual members. I will provide the input that I received from the DNR. The DNR did present at the bill hearing and did offer an amendment, and we will share that with the group as well. I'm willing to meet early again next week as a delegation on the record to continue to suss this out. But this is an impactful decision. It will have a fiscal note. It involves our county government because this is a joint effort between the county government and the state government, and it is a big lift. In addition to that, when it was passed last year into law, it was done at the twilight of session. It did not have buy-in from everyone, and I'm going on the record here admitting that. But what we are debating is the creation of a state park, and ultimately, I think people are pro-state park, but they don't want it to be done the wrong way, and they don't want anybody to be injured as a result of it, and they don't want, if there is said contamination, anyone to be exposed to it. So, I don't think we can arrive at a decision today. I think we've got a few more things to suss out. I have met with each one of you individually, and tried to champion different viewpoints. And I am in no way, shape, or form saying that a bill shouldn't be submitted this year to make things better. Delegate Riley.
Yeah, just to ask, have you seen the DNR amendments on the Senate side from the hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so do you know if you are supporting those or not supporting those, just for information?
Yeah, so all their amendment did was add technical language and then push the date out to, I believe, 2025.
Okay, all right. So
But I will
basically-
provide that. I will provide that information to the group. The DNR did not, in their report that they submitted, support the exclusion of the Tome School. So I think that was the only place where there was a schism between the DNR and the bill.
Okay, so you just said last year, again, this was, done without conversation of the delegation, but you do
No,
know
I said sufficient,
okay,
because here we are now and some members have some apprehension. Yep.
right. So it kind of started back then when we had a delegation meeting, and it is recorded that you had brought this matter up to the entire delegation, and I believe it was unanimous that you go and you get the BDC's support and also the Port of Deposit support. You, at the time, I guess apparently you could not get this support of either, because we went back at the same time. So once they realized you had the bill in, they came in opposition of that. So I think that's where, the problem started with this whole situation, just you acting alone and putting this legislation in, and then, coming in at the 9th hour. And then now we get this version of it and go through the interim and have the advisory committees. And like I said, for the most part, it was yourself. And then also at the time, the county executive. And as I told you personally, when I was at those meetings and heard from everyone, along with Senator Gallion, your arguments just, they weren't convincing enough that we could move forward with the way that last year's bill came out, and then the deadline that we have now. So I think that's why myself and Senator Gallion, felt that we had to do something at this point. So, I understand you obviously, there's definitely a difference here. But again, when you take the whole body of the advisory committee and what they were commissioned to do, and then have two people that disagree, Hornberger and Hornberger, just, with not truly convincing comments or resolutions, and then you change the report to represent what you did, which was fine. But then not having your name on it, I think, again, it goes back to the same thing last year. You just, and I understand, I apologize if you don't like the word deceit. I don't know what other, maybe it could be, a better word that you just, neglected to say that it was from you. And then, so I think that's why everybody is pretty frustrated at this point. And that's why, we felt that we had to do something. And I'm disappointing in you as our chair that you operated in this manner last year and this year. And I hear what you're saying about, Senator Gallen. I may or may not, because I don't know the situations. That's between you two. But, there's, we could say there's conflict with you all through last year with, you being elected, your wife being elected, and you were the two that, had opposition views of the entire committee. Still to this day, I don't believe the DBC is on board. I don't believe that the Port of Deposit is on board. I do know there's two members on the county council, because you had made the comment that the entire county council was for this. I've never heard that. I have heard from two members, and they had some good suggestion of some amendments. Again, they like the concept, want to go forward. But to say that the whole county council, again, is supporting this, I have not seen that. So I'm receiving more opposition and more in favor of the legislation that we currently have in than what you're coming up with. If you can give me something different, I haven't had a chance to listen to the hearing from the Senate side as of yet.
Yep.
or, look at all that testimony. I don't know. Was there a lot of, testimony that, came up with the same conclusion that you have at this point?
It was, yeah, it was sporadic, but I would just encourage you to watch it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
And then, okay, so that, yeah, so just to respond to that, all very valid points and concerns. The bill was, set into law last year, and then over the interim, the advisory group met. There were two reports that they came out of that as a result, and I think that using those as a guidepost is probably the best way to move forward. And I would like to draw everyone's attention to that advisory board committee document that was sent, even though that it wasn't voted on. There are consensus points in there, and I think that's important to look at. I also feel that there is consent. We're here to build consensus. We want the county on board. We want the county council on board, as well as the town, because it is within town limits. And we also want some of the interest groups that weighed in. I know that on the Senate side, we had the Riverkeeper Association as well as the Sierra Club. And I can attach the written testimony that people provided on a subsequent email after the conclusion of this meeting to review as well, because I think those voices are worth being heard. Senator Gallion, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I apologize. I had issues like I did a few weeks ago on shore delegation. My Zoom went out, so I'm on my phone now.
Okay.
So I missed about 5 minutes, and I apologize for that. So this may have been covered, but I had just one thing I heard recently I'd like to address. You talked about the Cecil County Council being opposed to the bill. The Cecil County Council president testified favorable with amendment, but I believe she said in her testimony, and you can go back and look at it, that she was testifying as a citizen and not on behalf of the county council. Same thing with the mayor of Perryville. He said he's testifying, on his own behalf and not on behalf of the town of Perryville.
Sure.
And thank you for sending that link. That's good. And one last thing I'd like to bring up,
Yep.
very unprecedented and, in my opinion, unprofessional when a delegate signs up to testify in opposition to a Senate bill that both of the senators he's working with are signed on to, and the other 5 delegates are. I mean, it was unprecedented, and the chair
I did not testify.
that
Submitted written information.
well, after you were signed up originally as oral, and that that's very, very unprofessional at the least.
Sure, Delegate Riley.
Sorry. Yeah, I do have one more question. So you had mentioned that the monies, because I know last year there was no money for this project. The other 2 parks had. And could you tell me where the money is in this current budget? I didn't see anything, but again,
Yeah, we'll
things
provide a
keep
copy
getting
to
added.
you. Yeah, we'll provide a copy from the budget book. It is under the Hazardous Substance Cleanup Program project list, and this is listed under the MDE budget lines.
And that's specifically for this particular park?
That's accurate.
Okay,
And it's in the
great.
amount of $150,000 for
Okay.
soil testing.
For testing. Great. Thank you.
Okay, we are bleeding into the Eastern Shore Delegation meeting, and I know some of our members need to jump over to that. This was very good discussion. I appreciate everyone keeping decorum, and I think that this warrants further debate on a public forum for everyone to see and hear, because this is a sensitive and important issue. Does anyone have any objections to a meeting as early as Wednesday of next week?
I do have a meeting Wednesday at, I
Okay.
would say somewhere between 8 and 9.
And we have plenty of time before the House bill is heard. So I can send out dates for next week that include any given day, but typically delegation meetings occur on Wednesdays and Fridays. So we will send out the dates and look to hear back from you, but I don't want to bleed over here into the Eastern Shore delegation. And I thank everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. All right, with that, we'll close up the meeting and I will send out the information to everyone. Thank you everyone for attending.